and I looked up and I could see him at my doorway, and I could see his eyes were bulging and that he was upset and he looked glazed over. And I looked at his hand and he had what was a small water bottle, but inside of it was a brown tinged fluid. And I knew at that point that he was going to try to kill me. It happened really fast. While I was sitting there at my computer, he doused me with gasoline and lit 2 matches, and before I could even stand up, had thrown the matches at me, and I felt a sudden burst of heat, of flames. I couldn't see anything because my face was engulfed in flames, and I just kept thinking, I knew this was going to happen. I wanted to get out of my office. I wanted to scream for help, and so that's what I did. Is I tried to run out of my office. At that point, I can't really see anything. I don't know what's going on. I just know that I'm on fire and that I was trying to get help. It was a little bit before I could start to feel somebody. I'm now in the hallway, and I could start to feel somebody talking to me and kind of patting me down with their hands, like hitting me. And I could recognize the voice was one of the nurse practitioners in the pediatric unit that was there, and she was talking to me and trying to put the fire out. I then heard her screaming, and I saw Clifford Curry, my attacker, coming at me with a large industrial scissors and a straight blade. And I remember putting my hands up. I couldn't see very well, but I just remember all of us being in a scuffle very close together, and me putting my hands up as he was stabbing at both of us. At one point, he had knocked me to the ground and knocked Miss Killian to the ground and was stomping on my neck and stabbing at me. What I remember next is I remember all of us being on the ground and Miss Killian trying to put herself between my attacker and me. And the next thing I remember is my NCO, who was Sergeant Dolan. I remember him holding on to Mr. Curry and had brought him down kind of like in a bear hug in the middle of the floor in the hallway there. And Curry was smiling and staring at me. And they were still trying to put the flames out. And I didn't know how hurt I was, but I just saw him sitting there smiling, and I just started screaming, to get him out of there, and that I didn't want him to get any pleasure from seeing how injured I was. So at first I was at the medical center, a small community hospital, and so a lot of the employees had rushed. They had heard the fire alarm, and they knew that it was something odd because there's not generally fires in the pediatric section. And so anesthesiologists and critical care nurses, and then my doctors had rushed to help, save me. They did save me, and I was laying on that cold, hard floor for quite a while waiting for the ambulance to come, and I just kept screaming, "You knew this was going to happen," because being a nurse, I knew how hurt I was. I knew that burns were obviously deadly, but I didn't know how bad I was, and I wanted people to know that if I didn't make it, that they knew this was going to happen to me.